Refuse to pick up my half-brother from school until his stepmom apologizes for insisting my piercings terrorized children. I'm a 17-year-old girl, and I have a half-brother who's 8. We share a mom, but we have different dads. My brother mostly stays with his dad, Jeff, who's been married to Amelia for a few years now. Amelia came into the picture with 3 kids of her own, and since marrying Jeff, they've had 2 more together. None of their kids are old enough to drive, and I rarely see my brother outside of birthdays or special occasions. I've never really built any relationship with his step or half-siblings. The relationship between Amelia and me is strained, to put it mildly. She sees me as just an extension of my mother, and their history is complicated. Amelia once dated my mom's brother, who turned out to be abusive. When my mom came forward with what happened, Amelia accused her of lying. After that, I never wanted to force a relationship, so I just leave things alone. I live close to my brother's school. I don't like being around kids and never really enjoyed babysitting, but I've stepped up a handful of times when Amelia couldn't pick my brother up. Jeff's work hours don't allow it, and Amelia is a stay-at-home mom. Usually, I just stayed in the car, so no one really saw me. This all changed this past May. My style is pretty alternative: dyed hair, multiple piercings on my face, and I'm used to strange looks or comments, especially from kids. But like I said, I never had to leave my car before, so it was never an issue. One day, my brother got sick at school and needed an early pickup. Jeff called and asked if I could do it. I wasn't busy, so I agreed. This was the first time I had to actually go inside the building, but since I was on the approved pickup list, everything went smoothly. I went in, signed him out at the nurse's office, walked him through the halls, and drove him home, no problem at all. The next day, though, Amelia called me. I honestly hadn't even realized she had my number, so I declined at first, but she kept calling until I picked up. The minute I answered, she started screaming at me for getting her in trouble with the school. I was totally caught off guard. I hadn't had a single issue during pickup. She berated me, claiming I'd scared my brother's classmates. Apparently, a kid in the nurse's office got scared of my look, and a few more in classrooms asked questions when I walked past. It's not like I have any extreme body modifications, just hair and piercings. But apparently, the boy in the nurse's office cried to his teacher, who is also my brother's teacher, who then told Amelia and requested that I no longer pick up my brother. I honestly don't even know if that's legal, but it sure felt wrong. As far as I could tell, I hadn't disrupted anything. The only people I had direct contact with were the front desk secretary, the nurse, and the few kids in the nurse's office. But in Amelia's mind, it was a huge issue. She told me the teacher said the only way it would be okay for me to do pickups in the future would be if I took out all my piercings. I couldn't help but think that walking around with empty holes in my face would be even more unsettling than the piercings themselves, but whatever. I told Amelia there was no way I'd spend all that time taking out my piercings every single time. I don't even go inside the building usually. Plus, taking out all my piercings is a pain. If you counted the time to take them out, clean them, and put them back in, those tiny balls are a nightmare with long nails and shaky hands. It takes about an hour, sometimes longer. I wouldn't be cleaning them every time, but it's still a long and tedious process that I don't want to go through unless absolutely necessary. She kept insisting it wasn't a big ask. Maybe it isn't, but what hurt most was being treated like a threat just because I look a certain way. I thought it was unprofessional of the teacher to make this request, and I told Amelia so. She replied the teacher had every right to protect her students and insisted she wasn't the one making the request. That stung even more. I'm not a danger, just someone who happens to dress a bit differently. And to top it all off, my outfit wasn't even provocative or inappropriate: black sweatpants and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt. Amelia claimed this was proof of why she doesn't allow me to be around her kids. For the record, I never asked to be. It's no secret I don't like kids. I told her if she had such a big problem with me, she was free to lose my number and find someone else to pick up my brother. She kept screaming, shouted that I was just like my mother, and that's when I finally had enough. I hung up and blocked her. Since then, I've only seen my brother a couple of times. We mostly communicate through Jeff, usually over games like Roblox. He doesn't have a phone or social media. Jeff said he was disappointed in me, but it's not like he has any authority over me. I brushed it off and hoped that was the end of it. Nothing came up again until today. School starts for my brother next week, and Jeff called to tell me Amelia wanted me to start picking up my brother again. I flat out refused and reminded him what happened last time. Jeff got aggressive, insisting they weren't asking much, but at this point, it's not about the piercings, it's about the disrespect and how Amelia treated me. I told him I wouldn't do them any favors of any kind. He tried guilt-tripping me, saying my brother would think I couldn't stand being around him. He even threatened to keep me from my brother's birthday party in a few weeks if I didn't drop it. Honestly, I told Jeff I didn't care about missing the party. I don't like kids anyway, and I'd just see my brother another time. So then Jeff escalated and said I wouldn't be able to see my brother at all unless I apologized to Amelia and agreed to pick my brother up again. I told him I'd only pick up my brother if Amelia apologized first, then hung up. Here's where things really get tricky. I could just see my brother during his visitation time with our mom, but we're not on speaking terms right now. So I'd have to break our currently temporary, no contact to make this work. I live with my dad and his mom and only see my mom once or twice a month. My dad and grandma both think I should just suck it up and apologize to Amelia. They don't get along with my mom at all. She hasn't been allowed in the house since I was 12. But honestly, I don't want to. My brother and I aren't super close, but we have a good relationship. I know he enjoys spending time with me. I'm his only sister, all his other siblings are boys. I don't want to lose that because of his stepmom, but I also don't want to lose my self-respect over how she treated me. So, am I really the one in the wrong for refusing to pick up my brother until his stepmom apologizes? I decided to take matters into my own hands. After hearing from Amelia that I apparently wasn't allowed to pick up my little brother from school because of my facial piercings, I started to seriously question whether that could possibly be true. The way Amelia described it, it sounded as if the existence of my nose ring and eyebrow stud was triggering full-on panic in the elementary school pickup line. Supposedly, kids were freaking out, running to their teachers, and creating a scene every time I set foot on school property. The more I replayed her words in my mind, the more over the top it started to sound. Sure, I could understand there being some side glances, maybe a couple of kids staring a little too long, maybe even a whispered comment here or there. But total chaos? Screaming and running to teachers for protection like I'm some sort of monster? That just didn't add up. I picked up the phone, determined to get the truth directly from the school. I wanted a clear answer from someone in charge. Was there really a policy banning parents, siblings, or guardians with facial piercings from being on campus or picking up students? Or was this just Amelia stretching the truth, dramatizing things, or maybe even lying outright? Depending on what the school told me, and Amelia's reaction to the call, I figured I'd have a better idea of where to go from here. If the school confirmed Amelia's story, I'd just have to agree to disagree with her, I suppose. But if not, I'd consider resuming contact with my mom to arrange to see my brother during her visitation times instead, since being involved in his life is important to me. It's been a frustrating, exhausting situation, but I'm grateful for the support and advice I've received. I just want what's fair and what's best for my little brother, and, honestly, some honesty from the people around him. Update 1. I did exactly what many people had suggested. I sent an email to the school, asking if there was any policy preventing me from doing pickups, drop-offs, or even being on campus because of my piercings. As expected, their response was clear: no such policy existed. I explained to them the reason for my inquiry, and they assured me they'd look into the incident with my brother's teacher. However, they reminded me that, unfortunately, there was nothing they could do if Amelia decided to remove me from the pickup list. I thanked them for their help, gave them my number, and requested that they call me after they finished their investigation. The very next day, the school called back. The teacher confirmed there had been a bit of staring and some questions from my brother's classmates, which made sense, considering I'd stood in the doorway waiting for him to gather his things after checking him out of the nurse's office, but that was the extent of it. She hadn't said anything remotely close to what Amelia claimed. With that information, I decided to call Jeff to fill him in, and I made it clear that I would only continue picking up my brother if his wife would at least acknowledge her lie, or, better yet, offer an apology. Jeff told me he'd talk to Amelia, and shortly after, I unblocked her number and waited. Eventually, Amelia did call to apologize, though it was blatantly reluctant. That was when she dropped the bombshell: she's pregnant again, and she tried to use that as an excuse for her behavior. I decided to let it go. I didn't want unnecessary drama with my brother, and honestly, it just didn't feel worth the fallout. That was, until today. Today, picking up my brother, he suddenly asked, "Why do you have so much metal in your face?" This surprised me. He's only ever commented on my piercings when I've gotten a new one. So, naturally, I asked him what made him bring it up. Turns out, once again, intuition, and many of you, were right. One of Amelia's older sons had asked if he could get his ears pierced, and she blamed it squarely on me, even though I almost never interact with her other sons. She'd been complaining and making comments about my piercings around my brother, probably fishing for him to say he was bothered or scared by them. I gently asked my brother if my piercings actually scared him, but he said no, not at all. He barely notices them. It's just that Amelia is always saying things like, "I just don't understand why she does that to herself. She's so pretty without all that metal crowding her face." For some context, Amelia and my mom were close friends before their falling out. Amelia even has a son about a year and a half younger than me, not the one who wanted a piercing, and she used to joke about setting us up before I started leaning into a more alternative style. Now it's clear where all the "she's so pretty" comments come from. At this point, I was frustrated but didn't want to upset my brother, so I redirected the conversation. But instead of just dropping him off and leaving, I made up my mind: I needed to confront this directly. I told Amelia I wanted to come inside and talk to her. She tried to brush me off, saying it was a bad time, but I stood my ground and said it was important. She finally came out onto the porch, and that's where our conversation unfolded. I told her again that if my piercings were such an issue, she was free to find someone else to pick up my brother. The only thing I asked in return was that she stop making my appearance the target of her constant complaints to her family. She insisted it was none of my business what she said in the privacy of her own home. I pushed back, explaining that, actually, It was my concern when she was clearly trying to get my brother to speak negatively about me. She repeated that she could say whatever she wanted at home. I was too exhausted for a drawn-out argument. I told her if my brother came to me again feeling hurt or confused because of her comments, I'd stop picking him up altogether and would only see him during my mom's visitation. She got huffy, agreed, and stormed back inside, slamming the door in my face. Update 2. I thought things had finally settled down after my confrontation with Amelia on her porch. She agreed to stop making comments about my piercings around my brother, and I figured we could at least maintain this awkward truce for his sake. Boy, was I wrong. About 2 weeks into the school year, I was picking up my brother as usual when he came running to the car looking upset. The moment he got in, he started crying. I pulled over in the school parking lot and asked what happened. Through his tears, he told me that during recess, some older kids had started making fun of him, calling him freak sister and asking if he was going to look like a monster when he grew up too. My heart broke for him. I asked if he'd told a teacher, and he said he did, but they just told the kids to leave him alone without really addressing it. What really got to me was when he asked, "Do I really have a freak sister? Am I going to look scary like you?" I spent 20 minutes reassuring him that there was nothing scary or freaky about either of us, that people just look different and that's okay. But inside, I was furious. This had Amelia's fingerprints all over it. When I dropped him off, instead of my usual quick goodbye, I walked him to the door. Amelia opened it before we even knocked. She'd clearly been watching from the window. Before I could say anything, she immediately started in with, "I hope you're not planning to make a scene again." I kept my voice calm and told her we needed to talk privately. She reluctantly stepped outside, closing the door behind her. I explained what happened at school and how upset my brother was. Her response? "Well, maybe if you didn't look so unusual, the other kids wouldn't have anything to say." That's when I lost it. Not screaming, but I made it crystal clear that her little comments to her kids and probably their friends' parents were directly causing my brother to get bullied. She denied it at first, but then let slip that she'd mentioned to some of the other moms at pickup that she was concerned about the influence I might have on my brother. The argument escalated quickly. She accused me of corrupting my brother just by existing around him. I told her she was a hypocrite. She'd been friends with my mom for years and never had a problem with alternative styles until it became convenient. That's when she dropped a bombshell that I wasn't expecting. "At least your mother never tried to steal someone's husband," she said with this nasty smile. I was confused at first, but then she kept going. "Apparently, there's a whole other layer to why she and my mom fell out. Yes, the thing with her abusive ex, my mom's brother, was real, but there was more. According to Amelia, my mom had been flirting with Jeff before he and Amelia got serious, and Amelia has held this grudge ever since." I was floored. I asked her why she was taking this out on me when I was literally a child when all this happened. She just shrugged and said, "Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Here's where it gets messy." I was so angry that I made a decision I probably shouldn't have. I told her if she wanted to play games and drag up ancient history, maybe I should give my mom a call and get her side of the story. Amelia's face went white, and she quickly backtracked, saying we should just keep the past in the past. But I was already pulling out my phone. I hadn't spoken to my mom in months, but I called her right there on Amelia's porch. My mom answered on the second ring, probably shocked to hear from me. I put it on speaker and asked her point blank if she'd ever tried to steal Jeff from Amelia. My mom was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Honey, where is this coming from?" When I explained the situation, my mom sighed heavily and said, "Amelia, is that you I hear breathing? Are you seriously still hung up on Jeff asking me out once before you two were even dating?" The silence was deafening. Turns out, Jeff had asked my mom on a date years ago, before he and Amelia were together, and my mom had turned him down because she wasn't interested. That was it. No flirting, no husband stealing, just a rejected date invitation that Amelia had somehow twisted into this massive betrayal in her head. My mom continued, "And honestly, after what I learned about him later, I'm glad I said no." She wouldn't elaborate with Amelia standing right there, but the implication was clear. Amelia started sputtering, making excuses, but I'd heard enough. I told my mom I'd call her back later to properly catch up, hung up, and looked Amelia dead in the eye. I told her that from now on, I'd be coordinating my brother's pickups directly with Jeff, and if she had any problems with me, she could take them up with him instead of poisoning everyone around her with her petty jealousy. She tried to argue, but I was already walking back to my car. As I was driving away, I saw Jeff's truck pulling into their driveway. Something tells me he's about to have a very interesting conversation with his wife. The real kicker? When I called my mom back that evening, she told me she'd been wanting to reach out but didn't know how after our fight. Apparently, she'd heard through mutual friends that I'd been helping with my brother's school pickups and was proud of me for stepping up, despite everything. We talked for 2 hours, the longest conversation we'd had in over a year. Now I'm wondering what other lies Amelia has been spreading and what my mom meant about Jeff. Part of me wants to dig deeper, but another part of me just wants to focus on my brother and keeping him safe from all this adult drama. Either way, something tells me this is far from over. Update 3. I thought the confrontation on Amelia's porch would be the end of it, but I was naive to think a woman who's held a grudge for years over a rejected date would just let things go. The fallout has been intense. The day after my phone call with my mom, Jeff showed up at my dad's house unannounced. I was getting ready for school when my dad called me downstairs, looking uncomfortable. Jeff was standing in our living room, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "We need to talk," he said, his voice strained. My dad excused himself, but I could tell he was lingering in the kitchen, probably listening. Jeff sat down heavily on our couch and put his head in his hands. "Amelia kicked me out," he said quietly. "She's saying I had an affair with your mom." I felt my stomach drop. "What? When?" "She's convinced that your mom and I have been secretly in contact all these years. That the whole thing with you picking up your brother was just an excuse for me to stay connected to her." He looked up at me with exhausted eyes. "She found your mom's number in my phone." My heart started racing. "Why do you have my mom's number?" Jeff was quiet for a long moment. "Your brother gave it to me a few months ago. He wanted to call her for her birthday, but he was too shy to ask Amelia. So I got the number from him and I don't know, I saved it. I never called her, I swear." "Then why didn't you just delete it?" Another long pause. "Because I thought about calling her. A lot." His voice cracked slightly. "Your mom was right that day on the porch. There are things about me she learned later that made her glad she turned me down. Things Amelia doesn't know." The way he said it made my skin crawl. "What kind of things, Jeff?" He shook his head. "It doesn't matter now. The point is, Amelia went through my phone, found your mom's number, and convinced herself that we've been having an affair this whole time. She's threatening to take the kids and move back to her parents' house in another state." I felt sick. My brother would be devastated if he had to move away, especially because of something that wasn't even real. "Have you tried explaining that nothing happened?" "She won't listen. She keeps bringing up how your mom stole her brother from her too." Jeff looked confused. "I don't even know what that means." But I did. Suddenly, pieces started clicking into place. My mom's brother, the abusive one Amelia used to date. The one who hurt my mom. What if it wasn't just about the abuse? What if there was more to that story too? "Jeff," I said carefully, "has Amelia ever mentioned anything about my mom and her brother? About what happened between them?" His face changed. "What do you mean?" "Just. Has she ever said anything that made you think there was more to the story than just him being abusive?" Jeff's expression grew darker. "She's made some comments over the years. Implied that your mom might have been involved with him while Amelia was dating him. But I never believed it because it didn't make sense with what I knew about your mom." My phone rang. It was my mom. I answered immediately. "Honey, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice shaking. "Amelia just called me. She's threatening to call CPS on your dad, claiming I'm an unfit mother and that you're being neglected. She says she has evidence that I'm having an affair with Jeff and that I'm corrupting you." "Mom, slow down. What evidence could she possibly have?" "That's just it, I don't know." But she sounded confident, like she had something real. She kept mentioning photos and text messages, but I haven't sent Jeff any messages, and there definitely aren't any photos. Jeff's face had gone pale. "Your mom's on the phone?" I nodded, and he gestured for me to put it on speaker. "Sarah?" Jeff's voice was barely above a whisper. There was a long silence. "Jeff. I heard Amelia kicked you out." "Sarah, I swear to you, I never told her anything about us." "About what really happened back then?" "What really happened back then?" I interrupted, looking between the phone and Jeff. Another silence, longer this time. Finally, my mom spoke. "Jeff, she doesn't know." "Know what?" I demanded. My mom sighed heavily. "Honey, Jeff isn't just your brother's father. He was married to someone else when your brother was conceived. Amelia doesn't know that Jeff was still technically married to his first wife when they started dating. She thinks I turned him down because I wasn't interested, but the truth is, I turned him down because I found out he was married." The room started spinning. "Wait, what?" Jeff stood up abruptly. "Sarah, don't, no, Jeff. She's 17, she's old enough to know the truth, especially if Amelia's about to drag her through the mud with false accusations." My mom's voice was getting stronger. "Your brother's father was cheating on his first wife with Amelia, and when it got complicated, he tried to start something with me too. I was the one who told Amelia about the wife, and that's when their relationship temporarily ended. But instead of being grateful, she blamed me for ruining her relationship. I felt like I was going to throw up." "So you're saying Jeff cheated on his first wife with Amelia, then tried to cheat on Amelia with you?" "It's not that simple," Jeff started, but my mom cut him off. "Actually, it kind of is. And now he's doing it again, isn't he? That's why Amelia's so paranoid. She knows what he's capable of." Jeff's face was red. "I haven't cheated on Amelia." "Then why do you have my number saved in your phone, Jeff? Why have you been thinking about calling me?" The silence stretched on forever. Finally, Jeff looked at me with what I can only describe as desperation. "Because I made a mistake 17 years ago. I should have fought harder for your mom. I should have left my first wife properly instead of sneaking around. I should have proven to Sarah that I could be better. And that's when I realized that this whole situation, Amelia's hatred of me, her obsession with my appearance, Her need to control my relationship with my brother. It was never really about me at all. It was about a 17-year-old love triangle that never actually ended. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Amelia. Since your mom wants to play games, she can deal with the consequences. Check your social media. My blood ran cold as I opened Instagram. Amelia had tagged me in a post with photos that looked like they'd been taken with a long lens, pictures of Jeff at our house, of him and me talking in our driveway, of my mom's car parked nearby on the street from some other day I couldn't even remember. The caption read, "When homewreckers raise homewreckers. Some people never learn. Protect your families." Jeff saw my expression and looked at my phone. His face went white. "She's been watching us. She's been taking pictures." My mom's voice came through the speaker, tight with controlled anger. "Jeff, you need to get those pictures taken down right now. And then you need to decide what's more important to you, protecting my daughter from your wife's delusions, or keeping your marriage intact." "I'll fix this," Jeff said, already pulling out his phone. "I'll make her take it down." But as I watched the post already getting comments and shares from people in our small town, I had a sinking feeling that this was about to get so much worse before it got better. And somewhere in the middle of all this adult drama, my 8-year-old brother was probably wondering why his dad didn't come home last night.